In the first 96 hours of Operation Epic Fury in 2025, Patriot batteries fired 943 interceptor rounds at drones costing between $20,000 and $50,000 each. A Ukrainian defense official reviewing the figures said she almost cried. The math had inverted. The most advanced air defense system in the world was financially losing to a lawnmower engine and a fiberglass airframe. The cheapest credible answer to that problem is a steel-cased cartridge that Nikolai Afanasyev designed at TSKB-14 in Tula in 1954. Not because anyone planned it that way, because nothing newer is cheap enough to survive the arithmetic. If you want to understand why a round built before the Soviet Union had a satellite is now the most economically viable counter-drone option on any battlefield, subscribe. Now here is the problem it was never designed to solve. The drone warfare economics problem has a specific shape, and the shape is getting worse every month. Cheap one-way attack drones, the Shahed 136 and the Kirin 2, cost between $20,000 and $50,000 per unit at current production estimates. Against those targets, a Patriot PAC-3 interceptor at $4.5 million represents a cost-exchange ratio of between 90 to 1 and 225 to 1, entirely in the attacker's favor. A THAAD interceptor at $12 to $15 million makes those numbers worse. Production asymmetry compounds it. Lockheed Martin and RTX together produce approximately 740 Patriot interceptors per year, shared among all operators worldwide. Analysis from the Norsk Luftvern defense blog estimated Ukraine alone required roughly 4,800 surface-to-air missiles per year to sustain its current interception rates. The supply line cannot close that gap, and it was never designed to. The strategic logic of the drone swarm depends on exactly this. According to CSIS analysis published in late 2024, the Shahed only needs to reach its target less than 10% of the time to remain the most cost-effective munition in Russia's arsenal. The other 90% still consume interceptors, exhaust radar operators, and force air defense crews into real-time decisions about what is worth a missile and what is not. Saturation does not require accuracy. It requires arithmetic. By July 2025, Russia was averaging 200 to 300 drone launches per day against Ukraine. From September through December 2024 alone, Russia launched more one-way attack drones than in the preceding 23 months combined. The problem is not going to be solved by a better missile. The constraint triangle explains why. Three requirements have to be met simultaneously, and all three are irreconcilable with the dominant air defense systems of the past 30 years. The first is cost. The engagement has to be cheaper than the target, consistently at scale across hundreds of launches per night. A Stinger man-pads reaches the right altitude and carries a capable warhead. At $120,000 to $150,000 per round, it fails the cost test by a factor of 300 against a $400 FPV drone. A Patriot round fails it by a factor of 10,000. The second is altitude coverage. The drone threat concentrates below 1,500 meters. Loitering munitions fly low to complicate radar acquisition. FPV drones fly lower still. A system optimized for higher threats leaves the lower band exposed. A system covering the lower band without radar relies on the crew seeing the threat before it closes. The third is fragment density. A drone is a light airframe with no armor and no redundancy. It does not need a direct hit. It needs to fly through enough fragments to lose a control surface, sever a fuel line, or lose propulsion. That demands high-volume fire, not a precision warhead. Precision munitions concentrate effect at a point. That is the wrong geometry for a target moving through a burst pattern at low altitude. Three constraints every modern purpose-built system meets too. The 23mm round meets all three at tens of dollars a shot. How Afanasyev built that into a cartridge designed for jets in 1954 is the engineering story here. The 23 by 152mm B cartridge traces to a GAU development order issued in 1954. The requirement was caliber above 14.5mm, light enough to support airborne units, robust enough to cycle reliably in an autocannon at extreme rates of fire. Afanasyev had spent years scaling up a 12.7mm aircraft machine gun design. The new round used a steel case rather than brass, a cost and supply decision, not an engineering preference, with a sturdier extractor rim sized for the violence of an autocannon cycling at 800 rounds per minute per barrel. The high-explosive incendiary projectile weighs approximately 186 grams. Muzzle velocity is around 970 meters per second. The round reaches the 2,500-meter effective range in under 3 seconds. Those are not the numbers of a system designed for cost efficiency. They are the numbers of a system designed for volume and reliability at industrial scale, which turns out to be the same thing. The ZU-23-2's twin 2. A-14 cannons sustain approximately 400 rounds per minute per barrel in practical burst fire. 2 barrels, a 50-round belt per side. That is a dense overlapping fragment cloud across the target's flight path. Against a drone with no self-protection, no maneuver capability, and a predictable approach, the engagement geometry is close to optimal. The ZAP-23 sight is worth understanding. It is not an iron sight. An internal gearbox driven by the gunner manually dialing in estimated target speed and range offsets both barrel aim points to calculate lead automatically. A mechanical fire control computer with no power requirement designed in the same decade as the round. On modernized mounts, it is replaced by digital optics and thermal cameras. The 2 A-14 cannons and the 23 by 152mm B round are not. Barrel heat is the hard constraint built into the design. After approximately 100 rounds per barrel, the metal is too hot to continue. 2 spare barrels per gun are standard equipment. The swap takes seconds in trained hands, but it is a real pause in the engagement sequence, a limitation accepted in 1954 because the alternative was a heavier system that could not be airdropped. That trade-off has never been reversed, because the weight requirement never changed. The round is in current production in Russia, Bulgaria through Arcus Company, Poland, and China, stockpiled across more than 50 nations. No supply problem, no shortage of platforms to fire it from. The cost math only needs one more piece. Set the cost per burst, accounting for rounds expended at realistic engagement hit probabilities against the target value. Even at several hundred rounds per kill, the cost per engagement is measured in hundreds of dollars. Against a Shahed at $20,000 minimum, the ratio favors the defender. Against a PAC-3 at $4.5 million, the comparison requires no elaboration. Both sides of the Ukraine conflict independently reached the same conclusion. In August 2023, Ukraine's 30th Separate Mechanized Brigade documented ZU-23-2 engagements against Russian Lancet, loitering munitions, and Orlan reconnaissance drones. On March 31, 2024, Russia's Ministry of Defense formally announced the creation of dedicated mobile anti-drone gun units, each built around a ZU-23-2 on a truck chassis, a 12.7mm heavy machine gun on a pickup, and an electronic warfare vehicle. That formation was endorsed at Army command level as the cost-viable answer to drone threat density that surface-to-air missile stocks could not sustain alone. Two adversaries, same arithmetic, same cartridge. The ZU-23-2 has no organic radar. Without thermal cameras, digital fire control, and laser rangefinders, it is a clear-weather, daylight system. Modernized mounts extend that envelope, but at cost. Position exposure is a documented operational reality in Ukraine. ZU-23-2 firing against drones reveals itself to reconnaissance systems immediately. Units relocate after every engagement. The gun that was once mobile at a crew's convenience is now mobile out of survival necessity. Against the smallest FPV drones, unpredictable flight path, close range, below 200 meters, minimal visual signature, the 23mm round is not the primary answer. The engagement profile that works against a Shahed on a predictable approach does not transfer to an FPV closing from an unexpected bearing at low altitude. Electronic warfare, interceptor drones, and physical capture systems address that tier. The 23mm covers the mid-range threat. It does not solve the whole problem. The round, designed in 1954, is in active production in 4 countries and firing in active combat as of April 2026. Every major defense analysis published in the past 18 months identifies gun-based solutions as the only kinetic counter-drone option that does not create a worse cost problem than the one it solves. Directed energy remains the theoretical successor. Israel's Iron Beam operates at a cost of a few dollars per shot, but operational deployment at scale outside Israel has not happened. In the interim, the cheapest credible kinetic answer to a drone swarm is a steel-cased cartridge from the Stalin era on a system that deploys from a towing position in 30 seconds. The ZSU-23-4 Shilka fires the same round from 4 barrels on a tracked chassis with the radar the towed ZU-23-2 does not have. In the 1973 Yom Kippur War, it rewrote air defense planning for a generation of Western militaries. In 2023, Russia was pulling Shilkas from reserve storage and sending them forward for anti-drone operations. A system that spent 2 decades in reserve storage is now the gun Russia cannot field fast enough. That is the next video.